I would now like to move to the next topic of our presentation, which focuses on annexation implementation, finance, and the city's financial strength. For this, I'd like to invite our city manager, Alan Bogart, to join me. Alan? As many of you know, Sugar Land operates under a council-manager form of government where the City Council acts as a board of directors, establishing policies and working with the city manager who oversees the day-to-day operations of the city. Alan's work and dedication to our community is unmatched. Alan.
Thank you very much, Mayor Zimmerman, and thank you all for being here today. Earlier in the presentation, the mayor recognized our current city council members that have led Sugar Land to the prestigious position it holds today. I'd like to take a moment and personally thank all of our council members for their support for the organization and their hard work on the many important projects that we have been working on. I'd specifically like to recognize a committee of city council, mayor that has taken a real leadership role on this particular facility, and that is a subcommittee or a committee that was made up of Steve Porter, Bridget Young, and Himesh Gandhi that literally spent hundreds of hours working on everything from the color of the carpet to the color of the seats. They did a tremendous job and have created a beautiful facility that will serve us for years to come, and I'd like to specifically recognize them. I'd also like to recognize the 722 employees responsible for implementing the council's bold visions for our great city. Our employees work tirelessly to deliver the quality of life our residents have come to expect. First, I'd like to introduce my executive team here today. Will you please stand as I call your name? Steve Griffith, First Assistant City Manager, Jim Calloway, Assistant City Manager, Mike Goodrum, Assistant City Manager, Jennifer May, Executive Director of Business and Governmental Affairs, and Meredith Reedy, City Attorney. And next, I'd like to recognize our other department leaders, our department heads, and ask that they please stand. Mayor Zimmerman just mentioned planning efforts for annexation. Implementation of this initiative will be the biggest operational challenge in years for our organization, but the City of Sugar Land is up to the challenge. There are many benefits of annexation for both current and future residents. Current residents will have the pleasure of welcoming two outstanding communities to our city, communities which boast first-class infrastructure, beautiful parks, and well-maintained neighborhoods, at no cost to our current residents. For our future residents, becoming part of the City of Sugar Land community means receiving the same high-quality services as our current residents, while most will experience an overall reduction in cost. Our next year, we will be preparing for the transition of services to the annexed area. In fact, we've already begun pre-annexation work necessary to be able to provide full services on day one of annexation. Implementation of the annexation plan required the adoption of a pre-annexation budget to fund preparations such as the hiring and training and equipping of police officers, which is currently underway so that they're on the street and ready to go to work at 12:01 a.m. December 12th, 2017. Overall, FY17 pre-annexation costs total about $6 million and include hiring 55 staff, purchasing 36 vehicles and heavy equipment. Additionally, over $1 million was budgeted to begin facility expansions triggered by annexation. So obviously, annexation costs are significant, and planning to fund these costs were an essential part of the negotiations of the strategic partnership agreements with the 9 municipal utility districts back in 2007. The city was able to add a surcharge for the services that the city provided to the non-residents. And over a 10-year period, a significant fund was created of almost $10 million, sufficient to cover all city annexation-related expenses until the new residents begin to pay city property taxes in 2019. As I mentioned, expansion of city facilities will be triggered by the population growth of annexation. The site of our Police and Courts building on Highway 6 was purchased with space for ultimate build-out. The annexation will necessitate the construction of a new municipal court building on the site, creating expansion space in the existing building for the police department. Similarly, the Public Safety Dispatch Department and the Emergency Operations Center will also be housed in a new facility, creating more room for police in the existing building. Another facility expansion resulting from annexation will be our animal shelter, and I know our new council member, Mary Joyce, is excited about this project. With a growing population comes a growing animal population. A brand new animal shelter will be constructed next to the and adjacent to the Police and Courts facilities. It'll not only accommodate growth, but will also provide the opportunity to increase our emphasis on animal adoptions and education. The financial planning that I just described for annexation is typical of the efforts that the city expends to maintain our financial strength. Our success as a city is dependent upon our strong finances, and we do not take that for granted. The city maintains a 5-year financial plan for all funds, including a 5-year capital improvement program. In addition, the city has prepared financial policies that guide our fiscal actions. These efforts have gained us the AAA bond rating, of which we are very proud, resulting in low interest cost for borrowing. The city's financial audit for fiscal year 16 is about finished and will be completed and presented to the City Council in February. It'll be a clean audit with year-ending fund balances within policy limits for all funds. The fiscal year 17 budget will total $260 million in all funds, including a fiscal year 17 CIP of $73 million. The City Council approved policy statements limit growth in residential tax bills. This objective has been aided greatly by the expansion of commercial growth, resulting in growing sales tax revenue. The city's portion of an average tax bill is less than 15% of the total tax bill and equates to about $1,057 annually. To put this in perspective, that's less than I pay for my cell phone bill annually. And for residents that are over age 65, the average city tax bill is even lower at $835. Over the last 10 years, the city has increased its homestead exemption from 1% to 10%, the equivalent of roughly a 3-cent property tax reduction directed specifically to resident homeowners. The general fund provides resources for all governmental services, from firefighter salaries to concrete for sidewalk repairs, and totals $79 million this year. It's funded by a variety of revenues, with sales tax being the largest portion at 50%. For residents, having the largest portion of our general fund supported by sales tax is a great thing, because it means that we do not have to rely as heavily on property tax. And you can see that in the pie chart where sales tax is double the amount of revenues to the general fund and property tax. However, sales tax is the least controllable and is profoundly impacted by economic conditions. Being careful planners that we are, over the last 2 decades, we have learned the challenges of being highly dependent upon sales tax, and we've developed policy and protocols that we're prepared for potential slowdowns. This is particularly important for critical general fund expenditures such as police and fire department salaries, which those 2 departments constitute nearly 50% of the general fund expenses. In November 2013, our residents approved $31.5 million in property tax-funded parks projects. The approved projects include Brazos River Park, Festival Site, and 10 miles of hike and bike trails. Today, we're nearing completion on about 60% of the approved projects. As currently planned, we will meet our commitment of completing all projects by 2020. I'm also proud to report that we're exceeding our financial commitments regarding the park bonds. Although originally anticipating the need for a 3-cent increase in property taxes, we've held the increase to less than 1 cent, 0.7 of a cent, and anticipate funding all the projects with a significantly lower tax rate than promised. In addition to the annual budget, our 5-year capital improvement program totals $175 million, with year one, $73 million. This year, the largest piece of the CIP pie is streets. The city will be investing about $27 million in street improvements, ensuring a smoother ride throughout the city. One of the street reconstruction projects I'd like to highlight is the reconstruction of Williams Trace Boulevard. Reconstruction will occur between Highway 6 and Austin Parkway beginning early 2017. We've recently awarded the construction contract, and it'll take about 15 months for it to be complete. The project includes the complete pavement replacement and additional storm sewer infrastructure to correct drainage deficiencies. And in order to incorporate the city's pedestrian bicycle master plan, a 10-foot wide pedestrian bicycle path will be added along the east side of the roadway. Another multi-year project that is seeing significant progress is the long-promised extension of University Boulevard across US 90A into the Imperial development. You will begin hearing this project referred to as the South Stadium Drive, as the roadway name will switch at 90A from University to South Stadium in recognition of Constellation Field. This roadway is specifically important for the expansion of Nalco Champion's employment and investment in Sugar Land. The new roadway will be completed across 90A and the railroad tracks within the month, and construction of the bridge over Oyster Creek will begin construction this spring, as the City Council awarded the construction contract on Tuesday night. The second largest portion of our CIP budget is allocated to drainage improvements, which is a good topic for this morning. This is mainly due to drainage improvements that will occur in Covington Woods, the Highlands, and Sugar Creek subdivisions. As you may have noticed, we've had 100-year floods for 2 years in a row. I don't get it. But that's engineers for you. And no, I'm not trying to insult you, Mayor. Or the crowd. We got more than our fair share in here. Therefore, the city will continue to mitigate against unpredictable weather patterns by continuing to make drainage improvements a priority. The city's leaders believe that all of our residents should feel safe in their own homes, especially in situations like a storm. For this reason, the proposed 5-year plan includes almost $53 million for drainage improvements. I'd like to point out at this point a very important connection between the topics that we've been talking about: building a strong economy and financial strength. Without the city's economic and financial strength, it would be quite difficult and really impossible for us to be taking on such tremendous capital improvements as those we will see over the next 5 years. Mayor, lastly, I wanted to mention that Sugar Land residents expect their city officials and employees to uphold the highest ethical standards. Elected or appointed officials and city staff are committed to place the public's interest above our own, and they're guided by policies and rules of ethical conduct. There is a set of rules for the public officials, and there's a set of rules for the employees. In order to maintain this high standard that we've established, the City Council and City Manager, myself, also created a task force this last year to recommend updates to our respective ethical guidelines, which are about 10 years old. City Council established a 7-member Citizens Ethics Task Force to review the rules of ethical conduct that apply to public officials, while I established a 12-member Employee Ethics Task Force to review the ethics codes that apply to employees. Both task forces have done a lot of work in 2016. The Employee Ethics Task Force places the highest value on making sure that we have high ethical behavior for our city employees. This task force focused on providing detailed guidance regarding things such as the acceptance and reporting of gifts, with special attention paid to public perception and employee ethics training. The City Employee Ethics Code has been completed now, and the task force is working with our Human Resources Department to develop an ethics training curriculum with an implementation target of this month. Not unlike the Employee Ethics Task Force, the citizens group that's working on the public officials side have considered extensive benchmarking research from other cities throughout Texas and the nation. The task force also received input from the city attorney's office, as well as holding public hearings to hear from other stakeholders, including city officials, community members, and city employees. Over the next few weeks, the Citizens Ethics Task Force will present a detailed list of their recommendations and considerations for an update to the city-appointed officials' ethics code to City Council to be completed in 2017. Taking such a serious approach to ethics today will certainly put us in a good position for the future.